goes?
I don't know.
Are you sure it was a clicking and not a zzz, zzz?
I think your quash litter valve's stuck.
Do you even have insurance?
If we soak it, it should be good.
No matter how much you know or don't know about your vehicle, trust the experts at Tires Plus. Real answers from real mechanics.
Inspections are free to ensure your vehicle is always in peak condition.
Thinking service? Think Tires Plus.
At Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we treat our patients like family. We have 14 highly experienced dentists with incredibly caring dental teams. We have more locations, more services, and extended hours to make sure your dental needs get fulfilled, your questions get answered, and you have the comfortable and high-quality experience you deserve. Call us or visit our website to schedule an appointment today. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
At Shots Crossroads, we make 8 gallons of homemade ranch dressing every day, so you can smother your dinner salad with it, dip those crispy golden French fries in it, and dunk your breaded chicken strips. You can even cover your... Wait, no. You can't put ranch on steak. Or can you? Shots Crossroads. Don't forget the ranch.
...2021 Dakota Bowl preview show live on the PSP Network. Tonight in Fargo, North Dakota, in a rainy Fargo, North Dakota. Tonight we're live at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in the beautiful Fargo, North Dakota. Time for Dakota Bowl number 25 here in 2021. Nick Holberg joined here tonight. Help me out here, Chuck. What are you saying?
29.
29, I'm sorry, 29.
It's all right.
My pen ink is a little off here,
We're
baby.
off and running, man.
We're off and running. Dakota Bowl.
Already correcting each other.
Number 29. Well, let's bring in our panel of gentlemen from Western North Dakota that certainly know their business with football and the high school sports world. Gentlemen that have been here for 25 of those 29 years. Let's call it that. Pleasure to have you guys on board tonight. PSP's very own Chuck Claremont is here tonight. Scott Woodmansey, Todd Domries, gentlemen. Dakota Bowl time of the year. This has got to be one of your favorites, isn't it? Really, when you look at the schedule, is this day marked and circled early on in the scheduling process for you?
Well, I can tell you for me myself, it's been circled. This is the first time I've been here in 3 years. These two fellows have had to take the reins, so I had to reintroduce myself to the Fargo Dome. So yeah, I mean, let's just say it's fun to be back.
He was on assignment.
He was on assignment. I love that on the assignment.
We won't say where that assignment was either.
The process is just fun. It's a long day, but really the whole process of coming down and hanging out the night before and the drive down, the drive back, and everything else. There's so many things that happen in addition to the football game. To me, that's what makes this weekend so exciting.
I know that you guys have some state championships in your playing days back in your days. Anyone at this table played in the Dakota Bowl? TD, were you there with Langdon at the Dakota Bowl?
No can do.
Bismarck High for you, Chuck?
It wasn't Dakota Bowl back then. We won a state championship in 1984, and we were outside in Dickinson. I wish we'd have been inside because it was cold.
Fargo Dome, let's touch on
We're
that.
We're old, just by the way. We're
Whoa.
not young here, Nick.
Hey, man, I can't believe you even asked that question. Going asking what number it is. It's 29, okay? And then you take the panel, the group here, and you subtract. And no moss on the Dakota Bowl for anybody here.
This isn't a math question. Sorry, right?
It was just an under-the-table nice compliment. It was supposed to be just a nice compliment to Chuck.
I just had to start this thing off hot. Why not?
This is the beauty of something like this, where we can give each other a bad time.
Let's bring it in hot that way. Let's touch on this first before we get into our questions and what we want to talk about here tonight. Fargo Dome as a venue. I know, Chuck, you're a UND guy. Obviously, the Bison aren't your favorite team, and Fargo might not be your favorite place on the planet. But as far as this event is concerned, Fargo Dome, what do you guys give this as a ranking, 1 to 10? Let's start with you, Chuck. Obviously, the Alaris Center is a nice place for it as well, but the Dome's got to be up there.
I would tell you that we've had a couple of the Dakota Bowls early on was up in Grand Forks, and I think the at least from a media perspective, the way the layout is from a media part, I thought it was better, easier for us. Let's start from the first thing. There were bathrooms on the media level.
That was it.
Okay.
When you started on that, the only thing I was going to say when you got to me, I was just going to say bathroom close.
Oh man, that's for us.
That's all I was going to say.
When you go on the air at 8:00 in the morning, or 8:30, and you're on until 10 at night, that is a big number one thing you're worried about. I mean, we're thinking about leg bags for crying out loud when we go up there.
TD, for you, where's the Fargo Dome at? Do you like it?
I mean, I'm always an advocate for the kids should play in the best venue when it gets to the biggest stage. And I don't think that there'd be any doubt that the Fargo Dome's right up there. I mean, you wouldn't want to be playing outside this weekend probably, or any weekend when it gets to early part of November and deer hunting season and every other thing that's going on right about now. So, yeah, I would say that the Fargo Dome's right up there. And, hey, man, outside of that 9 a.m. game, which I don't advocate, this is a great opportunity, and we've seen some Herculean type of efforts over the years at the Dakota Bowl. And that's what gets me fired up, is like, which one of these kids is going to have the Ryan Crest type of day that the Cavalier Tornadoes had a few years ago when they put a cape on that guy and he just carried him to a state title?
I love that topic, and it's not on one of my questions to ask you, so it's coming off the hip here. But in your guys' mind, with all these years of doing it, I mean, you have a memory right there. Is there others that stand off the paper for you? I mean, there's probably too many to even recall.
Well, I think, number one, you go back, you keep it local, you go back to the catch Geiger made, when Century won that, and then you take it back to a 9-man game, and I don't remember the year, but if I remember, a young man from Schwarzenberger or Schwartzen played quarterback.
I know you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, and boy, I tell you what, I mean, he just went absolutely crazy in that game. So certainly, I mean, those are just a couple that stand out for me.
I mean, I'm thinking of the keeping it local just a couple of years ago where the Bismarck and Century were playing, and ultimately it went right down to the last play of the game when that Philly or whatever you want to call it played of Cade Feeney, and it was incomplete. And so you talk about drama leading up to that. I know, Woody, we've had a couple really awesome A games with some Devil's Lake, St. Mary's games. I remember back in the day.
Oh,
there's just been some pretty phenomenal games. And unfortunately, when you hit 55, which I just did, and after 25 years of football, there's a lot of things that just blend together. At this point of the year, I have trouble knowing what my kids' names are. There's so many names in our head.
I mean, I mentioned the Ryan Crest one, the kid from Cavalier. That, I mean, the game is still in the record books for the Dakota Bowl as far as individual efforts. But for me, the Langdon area Edmore Munich Cardinals run that they had, where back to back, and had their 44-game winning streak broken this year and didn't get back to the bowl. That stands out way above everything else for me. Is when your hometown team makes it, that's pretty cool, and we got a chance to call all those games, so that was cool.
Beautiful. We're going to have more opportunities for more of those memorable moments tomorrow. Here is the schedule of the Dakota Bowl, number 29, that we will have full coverage for you on the PSP Network. Every game starting tomorrow, bright and early, 9:10 a.m. We'll be on the air in the 8 o'clock hour for our pregame show, the countdown to kickoff tomorrow with Lemoore, Litchfield Marion taking on Cavalier 9-man football. Hillsborough Central Valley takes on Kindred 20 minutes after that one in the 11B championship. St. Mary's and Jamestown. This is one that's circled here for us in the PSP Network. St. Mary's looking for some sweet revenge on Jamestown. Their only loss of the year came to the Blue Jays earlier this year. That's the 11A championship. And then we end the 2021 football campaign with the 11 AA matchup, and it's an all-West Fargo final. The Packers from West Fargo and the Mustangs from West Fargo Cheyenne go toe-to-toe tomorrow night. We have to tell you here tonight that this preview show is presented by our friends at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites, the number one place to stay when you and your family come to the Fargo-Moorhead area. They are the official hotel of the PSP Network. They're one of Fargo's newest and premier hotels in an ideal location right across the street from Shields on 45th Street and connected to the Porter Creek Hardwood Grill. The PSP Network's official hotel, again, while in Fargo, is the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites. Use promo code Dakota and receive 15% off while booking here at the Dakota Bowl for your two-night stay. Gentlemen, let's hop into this, and let's go around the round table right now. It's Nick Holberg again. Here's your host, along with Chuck Claremont, Scott Woodmansey, and Todd Domries. We're in the lobby of the Clubhouse Hotel here in Fargo. First question on the table here tonight as we really dive into this, the season of 2021 as a whole. Obviously, last year with COVID and everything that happened there, we get fans back in the venues, we get competition back. I know that there's a lot of conversation about the way things were structured. We'll touch on that in a second, but overall, your season as a whole, let's start with you, Chuck. Your thoughts on the competition in 2021. It was another good year for high school football.
Well, it was, and I'm going to tell you that I'm going to jump right past the competition to go with the camaraderie, because for us, 25 years at one spot and moving on to a PSP network, and Nick, close your ears, obviously, to me it's been a lot more fun and enjoyable season as we've got to be a part of production to changes to everything else, and more importantly for us, got to stay together as friends and guys that have been doing this together for so many years. So I know I'm appreciative of the opportunity that the last couple of years for us, I'm not even sure fun was the word. There was plenty of games where we were frustrated, and I would just tell you that to me, the season is going to be impacted by the first season we got a chance to be part of the PSP network, and that to me is something that I'm not going to forget.
Beautiful, and I can't wait for the future for what we're doing. There was nights this year where we had 3 football games on in one night where you could go to the PSP network and catch a Minot game, you could catch a Mandan game, you could catch a Century game. Those are the ones on the top of my head, and of course, they're playing teams inside of the West region as well. Woody, for you, 2021 season, is there a memorable moment or your thought as a whole on how things shook down?
Well, I think I got to, piggyback off what Chuck said. And certainly, as you said, you get into a comfort zone as we did for a number of years. And, sometimes you got to make some changes, and we made a change. And boy, I tell you what, it's been a hell of a run so far. And I think that there's a lot of bright things that are going to happen here. But I think overall, in general, I think you hear just the fact that you were able to see people back in the stadiums. Yeah. You were able to see fans. You were able to see cheerleaders. You're able to see that whole thing again. And for me, these guys obviously, I was remiss from the Dakota Bowl last year. So I don't know what that atmosphere was like last year, but this year, it's just going to be back to normal. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that stands out for me, is just to see football, high school football, back to where high school football should be.
I think for me the thing that stands out is the realignment. The whole football plan that the High School Activity Association blew out to the state this year, and just how much that dominated the topic of conversation. I mean, we couldn't go to a game without somebody expressing their opinion. It could be good, could be bad, but it was just a kind of a re-leveling of the entire equation. And now I want to see how that plays out in years to come with the other elements of that. And so I don't know if people are really in favor of it yet, and we sure know a lot that aren't in favor of it, but I'm curious to see how the whole thing plays out. But that was the one thing that kind of stuck with me throughout the course of the kind of when you heard about it to when it's in place now, and now how is it going to move to years in the future. So that is the thing that stuck with me.
Well, it's surely the most controversial topic.
Oh yeah.
Let's go there.
The most discussed topic.
I think we should go there right now with this conversation. I want to start here. Anybody at this table have a pro that they liked of having the new tiered system of from triple down to double, where double A is now the top tier. Then you went 11 double A to 11A to 11B to 9-man. TD, was there something that you actually liked about the new structuring?
I mean, the one thing that it did do was it rekindled some rivalries, where you had teams that are neighbors, but they, for the last few years, have been in different divisions. And so now you got to see a Buell and a Hazen be in the same division and play. You got to see a Kindred and a Hillsboro that have been fluctuating between these two different divisions, and now they're in the same division. They compete in every other sport, and now they got to go face-to-face on the gridiron. So that would be the one positive that I heard, but the negative comments have sure outweighed the positive comments.
Well, what I can say is I think it opened up some of the East and West rivalries too, like in the larger A and Double A, because at least last year for sure, when you think about it, it was pretty much you're playing in your own division. So you got to the end of the year, and these teams, the West and East hadn't seen each other, and so I like the idea that with this new this realignment, I guess you're playing some teams. At least when I'm thinking of A and Double A, you're playing teams in the opposite tier or the opposite part of the state early in the season, and even though it might not be part of your counts in your divisional record, it's still something in terms of, to me, it's good games that we'd like to see early in the year.
Or you got to see Mandan play St. Mary's.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
And games like that. Or you got to see St. Mary's play Shanley. which hadn't happened in a few years, and that's a rivalry that dates back right to the Dakota Bowl.
And I think the other one too is when you talk about rivalries is St. Mary's and South. I mean, you go back to back in the 80s and 90s, and I mean the battles that those two teams had back then. You saw that, and the other thing I'll say is that in the job that I do outside of this is that I get to deal with a lot of coaches and a lot of athletic directors, and there's not a one that, as Todd talked about, there's not a one that really has a positive thing to say about this. And I think the number one feedback that I hear is that nobody asked for it. Nobody asked for this, and all of a sudden it happens, and they go ahead and do it. And right now, talking with TD and Chuck on the way down, I know they're having some issues right now at the 11A level about scheduling for next year and what they're going to do for next year. So I don't know. I just think that there's some things that and I think, like Todd said, is how is this thing going to play out in the next 4 years and in the next 6 years and so on and so forth.
Well, I would tell you the only team that probably is really happy about it is Fargo Davies.
Oh my God!
Well, I mean,
sorry. For those of you who don't know, Davies, the third game of the season they were out of the playoffs already, and they finished fourth in the QRF or fifth.
And it's fun, and on the way down as we're watching the interview that we got a good friend of ours, Chase Miller, sends to us, and he's interviewing Jay Gibson, and Jay Gibson says, "Well, yeah, after we beat Davies, the guys knew we're in the playoffs. That was what was that?
Third week,
week 3." I mean, are you kidding me?
Week 4.
And then as a Davies, I mean, and when you talk about maybe surprises, I mean, give credit to Fargo Davies for continuing to do what they did,
good point.
and where they were at for the rest of the year, knowing that they were not going to get any taste of this. And it's just an absolute crime and an absolute shame that has something like that has to happen. In week 3.
Hopefully you get that fixed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I was alluding to earlier is, this is a plan that they're going to reevaluate annually now, and there's going to be changes every single year. Yeah. So I guarantee you that Davies thing that happened this year is going to be fixed probably in the upcoming season because that was wrong. And I think everybody would say, anybody looks you in the eye and says that's not right, that's wrong. But the whole thing now about teams opting up, opting down, being within the median of the enrollment, the success factor. If you're a team that wins back-to-back championships, and you've been in the playoffs multiple years, does that automatically bump you up? I'm very curious to see how that kind of stuff plays itself out here in the next few years because that is going to create just as much discussion as the plan itself did.
Well, and I think the other thing you got to look at too is where and when is the 6-man football going to be sanctioned by the High School Activities Association? Okay, so now if that gets sanctioned, now you throw that into the mix, and now you've got some of these co-ops that just say, okay, guess what? It's been a long time. Like, I'll use center stand, for example. I deal with center stand. And I'll tell you what, Trace, the guy at Athletic, they were so excited when they went 6-man because they hadn't hosted a football game in center for how many years? Mm-hmm. So now you've got this, and then if and when, I don't know when that's going to happen, you sanction 6-man football. Boy, I'll tell you what, now we got a whole – now let's just add one more mix into it and see what happens. So TD hit it right on the head. I think it's not now. It's 4, 5, 6 years down the road. What's this going to look like?
And that's a great point, Scott, about that 6-man football being sanctioned because I guarantee you there's some other teams that are 9-man right now that are looking at that saying, man, I got 22 kids out for football, but – do I really want to make the jump and go 6-man when it's not sanctioned yet?
Yeah.
As soon as it gets declared, you're going to see some of those teams on the bottom side of that 9B, they're going to go 6-man, guaranteed, because they're going to unco-op first because they want to have their identity back because they've lost that through the co-ops and the different names and everything else. They're going to get their teams back. They're going to go 6-man, and they're going to love it. And it's going to change the 9B bracket a ton.
And talk to the Montana people who have had 6-man for how long. And we know many friends that have played in that, and they tell you what a great opportunity and what a time for them that they had back in the day playing on their own team. So I think that would be a great thing for a lot of kids.
And it's ironic you bring that up, Chuck, with Montana at 6-man. And people talk about always the question around here is when you do this, it's the travel. Well, talk to some of these football teams in Montana when the playoffs. I mean, you got teams that are driving 7 hours one way to play a playoff game. I mean, so don't give me this thing about the travel thing in North Dakota. I mean, we're looking North Dakota, Montana, and you got a team in Montana traveling 7 hours to play a 6-man football playoff game. I mean, come on. I mean, that's got to be at the bottom of the totem pole. But like you said, I mean, once that comes along, look out, because I think that 6-man division is going to blow up. And then, what does the Dakota Bowl look like?
Hopefully they go to 2 days. Let's not go there.
Yeah. Well, that's another question.
We'll leave that. We'll leave that for future.
Let's throw it out there. I mean, if you were going to redesign it, how would you do it? I'll throw my opinion out. I would take, and I would, now that the 11AA and the 11A play on Friday night in the semifinals, I would take one of those teams, the 11A, and I'd have a Thursday night game. One game only on Thursday night at the Fargo Dome. Kind of like tonight. You'd show up, do one game only, and then have a noon, have a 4, have a 7 o'clock game on Friday, and everybody would absolutely love that.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Like state softball or McQuaid softball, where they switched and had the top league playing, an opening round game on a Thursday where you could get, all these people are going to be in a day early, come out to the game. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, and you can't do it on a Saturday because obviously you've got the buys and you've got to deal with, and you don't, and that just, but Thursdays, I mean, that makes just total sense to do it that way. And then, as you said, now you're eliminating and not forcing these kids to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to play a football game at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Or 5 o'clock, or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I've been told that if the game's at 9, most teams have pregame meal at 4 hours earlier, so that's 5 o'clock meal, so then they're getting the kids up at 4.
Yep.
So you're getting up at 4 a.m. to play a state championship game.
It's not right.
Now,
it's not fair.
Everybody will say, hey, we're going to show up and we're going to play and whatever else and everything, so they just love it and whatnot, but –
hey, that's all right. That's why we're sitting out.
That's why we got a crowd mic.
Oh, yeah. We
could be part of it.
We love the Cavalier Tornadoes.
Oh, yeah. We've got some see fans at the Dakota Bowl stopping in here for our preview show in the lobby at the Clubhouse Hotel.
Did you hear that? You got like
there's
that?
A tornado coming in.
There's no snowstorm coming in. All it is a big tornado. Hey, well, I got to write that. I got to write that one down. I might have to. I'm going to have to use that as the open tomorrow, huh?
We're
Tara Fondolin. Oh, there you go.
Do you have a prediction for who's going to win that game tomorrow? Dominate. Cavalier. She's got it right here, Cavalier. All right, here's what we need to do. Let's move on to the next one. Biggest surprises of 2021. Best of luck to Cavalier tomorrow, by the way. I love it.
The sledgehammers. We know Avila talked about that.
She said the Dome won't let him bring it in.
You said that.
I said that's a felony waiting to happen.
100%. Biggest surprise for you. Let's change gears. And I think that we should come back to this too. I mean, this is a conversation that doesn't need to be done yet because I'm not a huge football guy, right? I mean, my high school sports are high school hockey and high school basketball, but at that same token, I brought that up just to end on this. Playing at 9 o'clock in the morning in the biggest game of your career and in your life, I mean, it just is something that, we had a nice conversation with Matt Fetch earlier on tonight, by the way, and all the props to those guys. I know they're human beings doing their best job, but to me, that's a glaring one that seems that could use some attention in a quick hurry, even if it isn't a 6A sanctioned league next year that would force that, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to tailor it. I like that idea of the Thursday night game just because it keeps another team kind of in the primetime spotlight, and it still keeps your 11 AA game at the very end kind of as the pinnacle. You get an 11A game that is on Thursday night. You don't have anybody getting up at 4 a.m., so I think there's a lot of positives to going about. And if the 6-man championship has to be played, we'll throw that baby in as well on Thursday. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think the other thing, too, about this is that for some of these communities, I mean, you want to make a weekend out of it. And, yes. if you start doing it on a Thursday, some of these people come in. If you play a game on a Thursday, whoever that may be, they can make a weekend out of it, enjoy themselves, get away, and do what they need to do. And I just think that to me, right there for some of these communities, it is a big thing.
Well, I can tell you, when they started it used to be 3 games on Friday and the AA or AAA at the time on Saturday. And then I'm pretty sure that between the college scheduling, you know far enough in advance that whether you schedule it in the Alaris, if UND's not playing Saturday night, or if you schedule it in the Fargo Dome. Matter of fact, I remember going to a NDSU game. I think they lost to USD, Scott, if you remember. We went to a USD. We went to an afternoon game on a Saturday, and then there was the –
Wasn't that South Dakota State?
Was it? I think
it was red. I think it was South Dakota State.
Maybe it was.
Because I was wearing a Golden State Warriors beanie, and I was at a Bison tailgate, and people said, "What are you doing wearing South Dakota State beanie?" I said, "This isn't South Dakota State. It's Golden State Warriors."
So, I mean, but they did that before. And anyway, that's a scheduling issue that I would suspect at some point in time. Hopefully they take a look at, because this 9 a.m. in the morning, I think, is just wrong.
Well, the other thing, that lady that was just over here might have a hard time getting up for tomorrow's game, possibly at the Fargo Dome at 9 a.m.
Pre-game and starts.
I'm guessing the way she was standing around here and moving around, that energy level is probably not going to drop to below 90.
That's
before tomorrow.
The 9 a.m. tailgate started right now.
Well, it
it's kind of like going to Vegas. You just roll her right into the morning when you fly out at 9.
Just roll her right into the morning.
It's too bad she wasn't around when we were talking about Ryan Cresto, by the way. 377 yards rushing in 2013.
Wow.
The Dakota Bowl record. Scott mentioned Jonah Schwarzenberger from Napoleon Gackle Streeter. 543 yards total offense in 2011.
Yeah.
So, hey, you didn't even ask us those things in advance. We just kind of pulled those out of the brain.
That's why, I mean, you guys, we've got the A-team without a doubt. That's why we love you guys. Absolutely.
Which one of you guys mentioned the Geiger catch, too? That was
me.
Oh, yeah, that was outstanding.
Century guy, of course he would.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Speaking of Century, does anyone on this question have, as your biggest surprise of 2021, have Century in that conversation? Biggest surprises. Woody, is that you?
Yeah, I certainly do. You know, I think if you look at the way they started the year, obviously coming off 2 titles, and I don't know that. I just don't know that they really were able to find the right identity, and I think the big thing was against West Fargo last week in the semifinals, and take nothing away from what Jay Gibson did. I mean, because I'll tell you what, when you come in and, Jay Gibson says they had 170-some total yards of offense, you don't win many games that way. Well, Century had like 75. So I think, to me, that was a real big surprise, and for West Fargo to come in and throw a shutout in Century's backyard, that one really stood out to me.
Any others that stand off the paper? TD, who do you have as a biggest surprise of the year, or any topic as the biggest surprise of the year?
Yeah, mine's got to be the Beulah Miners. I mean, a team that was AA last year moved down to 11B this year and was the consensus number 1 team the entire year.
WA championship losing to St. Mary's.
Yeah, exactly. And so then the Dakota Bowl team from a year ago,
yep.
and they're undefeated until the final game of the season. They lose to Bowman County at home, and then they turn around in the first round of the playoffs and they get shut out by Velva. So it's just unusual that you don't see a team that is that highly touted and on their way, so to speak, to maybe another Dakota Bowl appearance. And Jim Dooley is a great coach. I mean, we love the Riverboat Gambler, and to see that team kind of just crumble in front of our eyes was a big surprise for me.
Probably one of the greatest interviews ever.
Yeah,
is Jim Dooley.
Yep.
And a better roundtable would be Jim Dooley on one side and Mark Gibson on the other side.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Sprinkling a little Jay Gibson and Bill Nelson after listening to him too.
Well,
lots of color there with that.
Boy, you'd have to have a lot of delay buttons on that deal.
Yeah.
And for me, speaking of Mark Gibson, they have such success at Bismarck High, and even in a bad year, it's a good year for most teams. And Mark, even though he continued his reign as making the playoffs, I think every year since he's his first year a coach, to see Bismarck High after losing Isaiah Hoos, and to see, how much one person made such a difference with that Bismarck High team. And they got shut out how many times later on the season, and then because of this way this whole QRF and this everything makes, they make the playoffs. And and then you play Century in the first round of the playoffs, and I mean that to me was the biggest surprise. Is I don't think anybody was expecting that. I think most people, if you look back at the numbers, I'm sure Bismarck, I think, were picked in the top 3 in the state in the preseason poll. So you get to the point to see where Bismarck High finished this season. I think that was maybe difficult for a lot of Bismarck High fans to see, but ultimately it just shows that how big of a it factor that Isaiah Hoos was in terms of they lost him for the season, and man. Just what kids put into other kids. I mean, this kid, he was on a pedestal for a reason because of how good he was. I mean, he had how many yards through 3 games of the season before he got hurt? I mean, he had how many, I don't know, 9, 10 touchdowns. How many? He was leading the Western region through week 7 or something.
Week 7
He's been gone for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So at any, I mean, to me, that was the biggest surprise and, unfortunate part if you're a Bismarck High fan.
And on that note, though, as a Bismarck High fan, what's the future look like? Any idea there? Do they come back? Is the cupboard going to fill back up? I mean, that's a hot button question maybe to put you on as well. But if you're wearing maroon and white to the capital city, are you freaking out completely, or do you think it has a future to come back around too?
I would say when you got programs, if it's Century, Bismarck High, the teams that have been really good for so many years, coaching's a lot of consideration, and we all have nothing but the utmost respect for Mark Gibson, and it's got to be players too, but we also know coaching makes a big difference. We were talking today about, I can't even remember, it's been an hour and a half ago, but we're talking about a coach specific who made a difference with a team. Where are we going here? Bowman.
Oh, yeah. Nick
Bowman
Walker
was number, what did you say, 32 of 33, the lowest. TD, you can tell the story better than I can.
Enrollment for Bowman County in their division of football was number 32 out of 33.
Wow.
And for his team to get to the semifinals just tells you the impact that a guy like Nick Walker as a head coach and his system and getting the players to buy in and getting them in the right spots and everything. Hey, had a great run.
And I think, you talked, Nick, about, what with Bismarck High in this year, but I think we saw the same thing happen with West Fargo, when Cheyenne came in. Now there's another one coming in, into West Fargo. And now you look at Jay took a hit early, and now he's got his team back in the Dakota Bowl again. So, I don't know if I'm panicking and the good staff that they've got at Bismarck High and Mark Gibson. Hey, you just got to rebuild and go with what you got.
They'll get kids.
We're going to come back and talk about the 9-man Dakota Bowl Championship tomorrow. Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion, and Cavalier. We'll talk about Hillsborough, Central Valley, and Kindred, St. Mary's and Jamestown, West Fargo, Cheyenne, and West Fargo. We're going to break down all 4 Dakota Bowl matchups coming up when we return to the preview show presented by the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in the beautiful Fargo, North Dakota. Don't forget to like and follow the PSP Network, by the way, on all social media platforms to stay up to date with everything high school athletics across Western North Dakota. We'll break down the matchups at the Fargo Dome tomorrow when we come back to the preview show on the PSP Network.
Remember where this goes?
I don't know.
Are you sure it was a clicking and not a zoo?
I think your quash litter valve's stuck.
Do you even have insurance?
If we soak it, it should be good.
No matter how much you know or don't know about your vehicle, trust the experts at Tires Plus. Real answers from real mechanics.
Inspections are free to ensure your vehicle is always in peak condition.
Thinking service? Think Tires Plus.
The best part about working at BNC National Bank is developing relationships.
I love working with people.
We've been here for over 25 years.
We've grown just like our communities we're in.
But we still have that personal connection with our customers.
And that's why we can find the best solutions for them.
It feels great seeing projects around the community and knowing we're a small part of making that happen.
We're helping people buy their first homes.
Plan for the future.
From startups to big business.
We're part of the community.
And we're proud of it.
Yours truly, BNC.
Some tornado chats here at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites in Fargo, North Dakota. Cavalier fans are here tonight. We appreciate you. That's the game that we are going to preview now on the preview show here on the PSP Network for Dakota Bowl 29. They're having fun here. An atmosphere all across Fargo tonight, I would have to assume, as the biggest game of the year and biggest game of many careers that will come to an end tomorrow for North Dakota high school football. It will be a fun one, and it's always fun when you talk 9-man football. Boy, did we have some fun playoff games on the PSP Network leading into the Dakota Bowl. Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion taking on the Cavalier Tornadoes after a thriller over New Salem that was on the PSP Network. You 3 gentlemen were there for that semifinal matchup for Cavalier. Let's start there. What a ball game that was, and the biggest takeaway I had was the confidence of that coaching staff and knowing that they've been using locker room and billboard material all year long. We're not the number 3 team in the state, folks. We're number 1. We're here to win the thing. They're coming into this with that plan tomorrow. what can we expect out of Cavalier and Litchfield, Marion Lemoore here tomorrow morning at 9:10 a.m.?
Well, I think you go back to, last week, a week ago, and I think you got to give Cavalier credit in the fact that, make that long trip down to New Salem and get off the bus and take on a team that was a really good football team in their own right. And certainly, when you look at this game, I mean, you got to believe there's going to be a lot of points put on the board. And both these two teams off, almost 55 points for, LLM, and then almost, you got 45 for Cavalier, and defensively 3 and 9. I mean, so what's going to give in this one? And I mean, is this one going to be 58-55? Is this one, I think that's the one thing that stands out is these defenses. And you look at, last week, I think Bottineau for the second time all year, Bottineau goes ahead of LLM and for the second time all year. And so I don't know. I mean, this thing to me has got a shootout written all over it.
I think that, but then again, I don't. I mean, to me, what is a shootout in 9-man? Is a shootout if in the 40s, or is a normal game is in the 20s or 30s? I mean, to me, I could easily see a game similar to last week, or where it was, 28-28 at the end of regulation. And I don't know if that's a shootout. I mean, I could see that happening because these teams are so loaded offensively. I mean, they've got great quarterbacks and Potts, with Lemoore, with LLM, let's go over there, and with Cavalier, with Bryson Clem, and they've got great running backs, they got great receivers, and to me, when you throw that in, that's really difficult for opposing defenses to stop teams that aren't so one-dimensional, and neither one of these teams are one-dimensional offensively, and so that's going to be the biggest piece to me, and that to me, that just adds to the excitement of the game, is that, yes, there could be points, but we saw last week, it was some defensive plays was some of the biggest parts of the game late in that, and surely in that overtime of the New Salem Cavalier game.
I just kind of think about, Cavalier has been there and done that. Everybody knows that's a football town, and boy, they've made a second home at the Fargo Dome here in years, recent years of getting to the Dakota Bowl. And I just look at Lemoore and I say, man, that was a high-powered team last year, and they kind of got upset in the semifinals by Linton HMB. I just look at the Lobos as that's a little bit of a team of destiny for me, and I just got this sneaky feeling that, man, they're going to come to play, and obviously both teams undefeated and a great matchup. They were wire to wire. Cavalier was number 3 in the entire poll the whole year. Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion was number 1 the entire year. New Salem was sandwiched right between them at number 2. So, hey, Cavalier took care of New Salem. Can they take care of Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion? Yeah, probably. But, man, I just got this feeling that it's the time of the Lobo.
Time of the Lobo might be right. They went through Mayport CG 42-0 in their opening round. They beat Grant County Flasher 42-22, and then a 20-6 victory over Bottineau, as you guys mentioned. Cavalier on the other side, what they were able to do, New Salem in the semifinals. That was an overtime game, 36-34. That was a wild contest right there. The Surrey contest went down 14-8. Cavalier had the victory there, and then 52-6, smacking around Wyoming Lidgerwood a little bit. So you talk about two teams tomorrow. We're going to make our picks at the end of the show. We'll keep people on the hook for that. But it should be a good one. Tomorrow's there one key that hops off the paper for you guys, and in maybe an Achilles heel or an advantage on either side of the football tomorrow?
I mean, I just look at the talent level on both teams. I mean, it is multi-sport talent level. I mean, there's a lot of kids that you see that are basketball players, that are wrestlers, that are track kids, baseball players. There's a lot of good athletes going to be on that 9-man field. And when you shrink that up to only having 9 defenders out there on a big field like the Fargo Dome, we've seen some incredible things in the 9-man game, especially, and these two teams can throw it. You know what I mean? They're very good running the football, but they will find a way to, I'm sure, hit some big pass plays tomorrow too. So I'm kind of of the opinion this is going to be high scoring. I just these two offenses with a big field like that, I just don't know how the other team's going to slow them down.
And you know, it's one of those games is you look to and say, you know, obviously us three being out in New Salem last week and seeing that, is there going to be an unsung hero in this game? You know, and obviously I don't know who that would be for the Lobos, but, you know, like Chuck, I mean, is it a Ty Holmquist? You know, we saw Clem and Hinkle and Carter, and is it a Jake Steele? Is it a DeMars? You know, is there a guy that that maybe comes out of the woodwork tomorrow for Cavalier, and who that might be for the Lobos, I don't know. But I mean, sometimes it's a game where you may get that, and but I just think, I mean, Todd touched on it. I mean, there's just a lot of really good athletes that are going to be on the field at 9-10 tomorrow morning, and it's going to be a fun one to be a part of.
To me, I take a look at these two teams, and Cavalier, they've lost the last two. So these kids, a lot of these kids were playing 2 years ago, and they've lost 2 times. So you think of them, then the eyes on the prize. It's nothing worse. All they're thinking about is a title, and they've got the experience. And obviously the Lobos have had the same, concentrated effort the entire season. And so to me, that just puts the matchup where for us as a media guys, we don't have any, kids in a fight, so to speak. And so for us, I don't know if it necessarily matters who wins, but I just take a look at it because I just feel that Cavalier, and maybe this is a foreshadowing as my pick, but I just feel like, hey, you say it's your destiny with LLM. I almost think that it's a destiny for Cavalier, that these guys have played 2 years and they've lost.
Third time's a charm, right, Charlie?
Absolutely. That's what I got written down, man.
Third
right
time's
here.
a charm, right,
Third
fella?
time's a charm.
There you go.
Hey, here's the one thing that I got to say against that, though. Cavalier, who was the kid that brought the sledgehammer in?
Avila.
Demetrius
Avila,
yeah. Okay, well, the rumor is that in the Fargo Dome you cannot bring that in, and so they're trying to figure out a way to get these blow-up sledgehammers in there just to replicate that. So I just don't have good karma about that. So I'm thinking it's severely Lamar Litchfield Marion.
Well, that's kind of like you go back to the Holsteins. They wouldn't let them bring the trailer into the Fargo Dome either. So
there you go.
If you can't bring the trailer in, you can't bring the sledgehammer in.
Sometimes you get too
there
big.
you have it.
I mean, what are you going to have, a pink blow-up sledgehammer in there? I mean, it's just not going to
work.
It's not going to be the same thing.
It's not going to work. You're right.
I love the X Factor. We'll make our picks at the end of the show tonight. But next, we'll talk about Hillsborough, Central Valley, and Kindred of the 11B Championship. The boys will break that one down when we come back to the preview show here on the PSP Network for the Dakota Bowl, number 29 here in 2021. Clubhouse Hotel and Suites brings you the show tonight. Use promo code Dakota in booking tonight for your 2-night stay and receive 15% off. Clubhouse Suites again brings you the preview show for the Dakota Bowl here on the PSP Network. We'll talk 11B football when we return.
Whether you're looking for a full-service financial plan or planning for farm or business succession, Planning Team Financial Advisors is here to help you work toward achieving your financial goals. With locations in Bismarck, Garrison, and Center, our full-service team of professionals are dedicated to helping you work towards achieving your financial goals. Visit us online, planningteam.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice offered through GWM Advisors, LLC, doing business as Goss Advisors, a registered investment advisor. GWM Advisors, LLC, and Planning Team Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.
The right way to top a sub is with real red wine vinegar made from red grapes and no food coloring. And the right way to film it is in slow motion. Obviously. Because authentic ingredients make a sub above.
Beautiful season of North Dakota high school football here in 2021. I don't think we had a broadcast that got knocked out by any weather. Mother Nature played nice this year as well. We're here now previewing the matchups for tomorrow at the Dakota Bowl at the Fargo Dome, where weather won't be a factor unless you're traveling and it's starting to feel a little bit like winter outside. Again, it's the preview show on the PSP Network presented by the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in Fargo, North Dakota, the number one place to stay when your family comes to the Fargo-Moorhead area. They are one of Fargo's newest and premier hotels in an ideal location right across the street from Shields on 45th Street. PSP Network's official hotel, well at the Dakota Bowl and in Fargo. Again, use promo code Dakota to save 15% on your stay well at the Dakota Bowl. Let's talk 11B football now. Again, Nick Holberg here, joined tonight by Chuck Claremont, Scott Woodmansey, Todd Domries. If you're just joining us, gentlemen, 11B football has been a lot of fun here in 2021, and a matchup of a couple teams from the east side of North Dakota with Hillsborough, Central Valley, and Kindred. Biggest thing you look forward to tomorrow? Is there something that really hops off the paper in this matchup tomorrow with two of the best teams in 11B football that stay standing here at the end?
Yeah, but to me, this one two veteran teams that have great offensive lines, and they're almost mirror images of each other when you start to really break it down in how they go about things. Hillsboro's probably a little bit more ground and pound. Kindred's a little bit more diversified, but again, a great matchup. They played back on August 27th, and Hillsboro, after losing their opener to Central's Cass, came and had to get a win. I mean, they had to right the ship in some respects, because Hillsboro Central Valley was the number one team to start the year, and so they were like, "Hey, what's going on?" It was kind of an awakening for the Burros, and hey, man, they haven't lost since, and they beat Kindred that night in a hard-fought matchup. I expect this one to be a really, really good football game.
Yeah, I go ahead, Charlie.
No, that's good. I was just going to say sometimes that them one-dimensional team scares me. The Beulah Miners, the whatever else, and that's the part I take a look at. And obviously stats is I'm big in the stats side of things, and I take a look at that and say, to me, a balanced offense puts you in a position, whether you're up or down or whatever else, to do so many things. And Hillsboro Central Valley, you mentioned that. Their ground and pound, 260 yards of rushing offense, just 66 a pass. Now, you haven't had to do it necessarily, so right? But, I mean, to me, it's diversity is a big thing to me when it comes to football and having a balanced attack, and we'll see a bunch of these teams down as we're talking more about them, or at least a couple more that have really diversified attacks. It's really St. Mary's and Jamestown. So I look at that part to see. It is going to be interesting for me to see how is Hillsboro, how's that going to happen? How's this rematch? It's the first of 3 rematches in the last 3 games. So that's kind of interesting to me to say. I love that rematch when you get a chance to play a team early in the season and you play them again in the state championship. How much have teams changed? How much has that made a difference? So.
Yeah, and you can say it's it's hard to beat a team 2 times in 1 year. I mean, you look at that, and then you look at the Kindred side of things, and I think that there might be a little bit more incentive on this Kindred side. Is that you've got 6 of these kids who were a part of that state championship basketball team last year that we had a chance to see up in Minot, and you've got the quarterback McQuillan. He's got some individual championships as well on the golf side, and so I think Kindred, not that Hillsboro Central Valley. I mean the champion that they've won, but I don't know. I just think this Kindred thing. I just got a feeling that it might be the time for the Kindred Vikings to add another state championship on the football side. And the other thing is, guys, is I think somehow, some way, we've got to try to find Max McQuillan's grandparents tomorrow to see if they have if she's got the half sweatshirt on. His grandparents his mother's parents live in Hillsboro. She's from Hillsboro. He's the starting quarterback for Kindred.
I'm guessing they're wearing Kindred stuff.
So yeah. I'm guessing
blood is thicker than town.
Wasn't it 1 year where a couple years ago wasn't Jan Feeney wearing Bob Feeney's wife was wearing a Century on one side and Bismarck on the other side when Feeney was I don't remember what year it was.
I think Steve was maybe coaching for that Bismarck. And
so I don't know. I just something just gives me that feeling on this one. That I see what Chuck's saying about the diversified and the methodical type offense, but something just stands out for me for this Kindred football team.
Yeah, and hey, I get a little worried too when I look at the season or the history between the two teams. It's their 12th meeting. Hillsboro Central Valley's won the last 6, and so you just got to kind of almost feel like, hey man, one team's due here, right? So you kind of think that maybe this is Kindred's time, and hey, oh by the way, they've never won a football title, right? So they've got to be your Cinderella story in some respects to find a way to do it. But man, Hillsboro, what I like about them guys is in breaking down some tape, they got 3 dudes up front. And a lot of times, they will only rush 3 guys. They drop 9 guys into coverage. And so if you're going to try to throw the football against them, do it at your own peril, because they got a kid in Parker Gallagher that's 16 interceptions in 2 years. And so they got the reincarnated Lester Hayes playing secondary for the Hillsboro Burros. And so it's just an interesting thing to try to break down the matchup.
The part that I like about this Hillsboro team, too, is obviously being a former college offensive lineman, is that 5 senior offensive linemen for Hillsboro. And that, to me, is a big thing. Continuity is huge when you look at that. Jamestown will get to that point, too, where these guys are playing together, their offensive line playing together since they're in grade school. And so, to me, that means a big deal. These guys have played together for a long time. And when you throw that together for a team that has played together like that, whether they have to give Riley Olsen the quarterback time to throw or whether they're blocking for the two running backs, Lashuk and Cole Hebel. I mean, those are pieces to me that, from an offensive line guy's perspective, that means a lot.
Well, yeah, Hillsborough brought just about everybody back,
right.
The entire team. Well, the only guy they had to replace was the quarterback, and so then the coach's kid, Riley Olsen, comes in and has had a great year. And then you look at Kindred; they got at least 8 guys back on both sides of the ball. So to Chuck's point, 2 veteran teams, a lot of seniors. Kindred's got a few underclassmen sprinkled in there, but hey, make no bones about it here. These are 2 really good football teams with a lot of seniors doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Here's my question for you. They took 2 different paths to get here. When you look at the playoffs in 11B football, Hillsborough Central Valley took care of Lisbon 43-8. Then they took care of Central Cass 28-6. Then they won 49-12 over Bishop Ryan. I mean, they blew everybody out coming here to the Fargo Dome. When you look at Kindred, they got by Thompson by 2 at 30-28. They took down Langdon 21-18. And then Bowman County in the semifinals, they blew them out of the water 51-19. But a little more battle tested in those first 2 rounds. Does that play a factor in your guys' mind at all?
I think it does. In my mind, I think if you're going through this gauntlet of the playoffs and you're winning games like Kindred was winning games, I think that tells you something. Now, obviously, that the lopsided one was the last one defeating Bowman County. So I don't know. I just think that adds a lot. It adds to that momentum as you're going into this championship game and says, hey, guys, you know what? We've had 2 close games, and we've had a close game against a team that's been to this Dakota Bowl how many years in a row, Langdon, and so certainly I think that plays a factor in for Kindred.
Yeah, one time. I mean, injuries could be a factor too. We haven't heard any injuries in this piece, but I can remember back in the day playing, and we had a really tough game before our championship game. We played West Fargo, and it was an absolute battle and just a beat down between the 2 teams on each other. And that Thompson game, that matchup with Kindred in the first round, and the Langdon, I mean, those were 2 tough games. I'm going to guess physically they were both tough games too. And now, thankfully for Kindred fans, they played Bowman County, went out there and rolled, and maybe got a chance to rest some kids. But that surely could make a difference.
It just tells me the brackets are screwed up.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
I mean, how do you get Kindred, Thompson, and Langdon all? I mean, I get it. They use the formula to slot the top 4 teams, the region champions, so to speak, and then after that they went geographic. And the power this year, guys, was severely in the East.
Yes.
And you don't have to look at a bracket like this to say that, well, hey, you had Kindred and Langdon, and oh, by the way, and that's a quarterfinal game, and oh, by the way, they were 2 and 3 in the final poll. And so how do you get the 2 and 3 team in the state playing in the quarterfinals? Well, it's because you didn't use QRF all the way through the bracket. So to me, the brackets were messed up.
Yeah, I would look at it to me that we've all played sports. And to me, leadership is a major, major factor in the success of teams. And, don't discount that big game factor and the leadership. Max McQuillan, whether he was in the basketball floor or Scott mentioned early on, part of golf championships. And maybe some of us discounted golf back in high school since we didn't play it. But now that we play it, we all I didn't say you. I didn't say – I meant some of us.
He said some of us.
And,
yeah, he didn't say all of us.
And so now that those of us who played, we recognize in golf, hey, it takes a lot of brains and chutzpah to play golf. And so to me, that leadership like a Max McQuillan and other guys, that's a big, important factor.
It's going to be fun. 11:45 tomorrow morning for that matchup in the 11B Dakota Bowl, the state championship for North Dakota 11B football. When we come back to our preview show presented by our friends at Clubhouse Hotel and Suites, we will talk 11A football, the Saints and the Blue Jays, a matchup and a rematch from a loss, and the only loss for St. Mary's earlier on this year. That one takes place at 2:30 tomorrow. PSP Network breaks it down when we come back. It is the Dakota Bowl, number 29 preview show live from the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in Fargo. Don't go anywhere. We'll talk 11A football when we return.
Carson, timeout.
Who calls a timeout in this game?
Me, I'm icing the kicker.
Really?
It'll give us more time to talk about First Western Bank and Trust.
Like our convenient online banking.
Along with smart trust service options.
We're all about hometown service with bankers that know you and the community.
Okay, go ahead and kick.
I don't believe this.
First Western Bank and Trust. You can bank on us.
The 30-inch Galactic Pizza is out of this world. There's nothing like it anywhere else in Minot. Too much to handle? Try one of our famous large specialty pizzas like the Blue Buffalo. Get the best pizza in Minot and play some laser tag. At Planet Pizza, South Broadway, Minot.
Chilly night here at Fargo. We get geared up for the Dakota Bowl tomorrow and the 2021 edition, number 29 for the Dakota Bowl all time. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Full day of coverage right here on the PSP Network. Don't forget, PSP Network will have every game tomorrow starting at 9:10 a.m. with the opening kickoff. We'll be on the air 30 minutes prior to that for our preview and countdown to kickoff tomorrow morning. PSP Network proud to promote local athletes. Help us grow the promotion of these athletes by liking and following the PSP Network on all of our social media platforms. PSP Network, it's game day. All right, let's talk about two teams from the West region that crack into the 11A Dakota Bowl. The Blue Jays from Jamestown and the Saints from St. Mary's. This is going to be a fun one with a couple high-octane offenses again tomorrow. Gentlemen, what do we expect tomorrow out of this matchup in 11A football?
Yeah, you know, I just think that this is, again, as we roll into this third game of the day tomorrow, I think it's going to be right in the lines with the first two. And yeah, Jamestown is a team that knocked off St. Mary's. You know, St. Mary's only lost. But I think you look at of this is you say St. Mary's, a team that certainly has made, as Todd said about Cavaliers, has made the Fargo Dome their home in the postseason over the last number of years. Jamestown, well, it's been a long time. And let's go back to 1956 since they won a state championship in football.
Wow.
And so I don't know. I mean, this one really, I'm having a tough time with this one and who I'm going to pick in this one. I think you've got two really good quarterbacks in this one, in Schumacher and Hochhalter, and you know, him coming back from that collarbone and what he's done. And you know, I think the one thing that stood out was, you know, what Bill Nelson said in that interview was, you know, they putting Hochhalter at cornerback to go up toe-to-toe with, you know, with Fedorchuk or Schaefer or Sefner. And I just think it sets up to be a really good matchup on both sides of the football.
Yeah, I would say that to me, Todd talked about the athletes in the Tornado and LLM game, and surely the Viking and the Hillsborough Kindred. And to me, that's the part that is really uniform throughout this. And you just start taking a look at paper, the athletes, and from so many multiple sports, and I think all of us played multiple sports growing up, and that's the key to me, to see kids that are in other sports, and whether they're even hockey. Let's throw in Hillstrom. He's a goalie for Jamestown on the hockey side. Landon Carter's like in Team USA 18 and below, or Team North Dakota for Cavalier. So you talk about these athletes who are playing in multiple sports. This is a perfect example of a game like this where you look across the roster and almost to a man, everybody's playing something else and is successful in another sport as well. And I look at this just a tremendous matchup. There's so many things that are so close. Even from the wrestling, from these two teams have had great wrestling last year, where even on the highest level, where Class A and Class B wrestling, where St. Mary's finishes 5th, Jamestown finishes 3rd, and all these kids that I guarantee they know each other very well from the wrestling mat. And so I just see the matchup like that of two tough, gritty teams. Despite the tradition of St. Mary's, I know that St. Mary's looks at Jamestown and says, hey, we lost to a better team back in the 3rd game of the season when they lost 20-7. Surely the second half they got shut out, didn't play very well at all. The good news for St. Mary's, they played against Hochhalter, so they saw him and saw that, hey, this is a guy that we got a chance to play against before. And so, to me, that revenge factor from the St. Mary's side, there might be a little value to that, even on top of the tradition and of the experience that they have.
Doesn't it seem, though, when you talk about multi-sports, doesn't it seem that the sport that takes on the multi other than football in these playoffs is wrestling?
A lot of it is, yeah. There's a lot of these
kids. It really does. And when you talk about that, Chuck, you made a great point there, is that not only in golf, mentally what you have to do, but wrestling. It's just you, maybe. I mean, it's mano a mano.
Toughness.
And that plays a big factor. Yeah. When you've got a lot of these kids doing these individual sports.
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't have a coach around that wouldn't take a wrestling kid on his football team. I mean, it's just guaranteed, right? I mean, maybe the only one they would take before that would be a guy that's in rodeo, because those son of a bees are tough.
A.J. Hines.
A.J. Hines.
Ask Coach Krenz from Flasher.
With the bullfighter.
Oh, yeah, he had a bullfighter on his team, for crying out loud. I mean, how tough do you think that guy is? He was injured. Didn't play at the start of the year.
Well, if they're crazy, they're going to be willing to be the bullets on the kickoffs,
well,
too.
No, and I ain't going to say anything about wrestlers, but if he's in bullfighting, he's tough, but he gets a little something loose.
No, he's quick. That's what
he's quick. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I guess this 11A matchup, I'm excited about this one because, guys, this one is going to be, of all the matchups, this is the one that could be the aerial show. The other teams are really focused on running the football. These two teams put it up about double what the teams in 9B and 9 and 11B put it up. I mean, St. Mary's puts up about 18 times a game. Jamestown will throw right around 20 times a game. That's the most in the tournament of the Dakota Bowl here. And so these teams both have a similar offensive style. They'll spread you out. They'll play out of the pistol. They'll run the ball. They'll run the ball between the tackles. They'll run it outside zones and everything else. But, man, they chuck it. They have to throw the football around the field, and they got the athletes to do it. And so in a nice, calm, pristine environment like the Fargo Dome, I think that could be a lot of fun, and there'll be some fireworks in that game.
Well, I think the other part with these two teams that they're so similar is they have great rushing defenses. And so their rushing defenses, to that matter, both teams have under 75 yards a game rushing they're giving up. So ultimately, they force teams to throw the football. And so I would look at that to say that even adds to that, saying these rushing defenses from these two teams, they're gonna stop the run. I think early in the year, or the first game these two teams played, I think St. Mary's I think they had under 75 yards rushing ultimately. So you look at that, it's a team from St. Mary's who's rushing the football. They're over 200, almost 200 yards a game rushing. So I would tell you that the defenses are really tough against the rushing. It's going to force them to throw the ball, and I love it. I love that point because Schumacher, what a chance for him after last year got beat out late in the preseason to an all-state quarterback. For St. Mary's, he's kind of got his chance to come out here. He's thrown the ball 230 times, as you mentioned, Todd. And Holkalter's mixed 6 games, and he's thrown it 120. Yeah. So that could be a really fun game to watch in that aspect.
Well, and we talked about the realignment earlier. I don't know if there's a team in this field that's happier about the realignment than the Jamestown Blue Jays. I mean, they've been taking their lumps in AAA football for quite a few years, and it's evidenced by the fact that Scott mentioned they haven't won a title since 1956. They had the longest drought of being in the Dakota Bowl or in a championship game in the field. So they haven't been here since 1994. So 27 years in the making that the Blue Jays get to play in a championship game for a title.
And then not only that, it was 30 years ago too when these two teams, St. Mary's beats Jamestown 30 years ago in a state championship game at Hughes Field. And but Todd made a great point. Is I think that you take these teams, and as much as they've thrown the football, and you put them in that environment, and boy, that just sets up for an aerial show. And if you get that, and these two defenses, Chuck touched on it, is that you got St. Mary's giving up 12 points a game, you got Jamestown giving up 9,
you got some all-state kids playing D-backs. You mentioned Kallenbach. I mean, this kid's a great athlete. His brother's a great athlete. His father played football in college. And so you go against kid Adam Kallenbach. You're right. He's going to go up against the All-Stater Britt Sefner on the offensive side. But Sefner, he also is a stud kid playing free safety or strong safety for St. Mary's. So there is some good kids with great athletes, even that back and the linebacker and the defensive backs, and they are going to be put to the test.
Does it kind of feel like a few years ago we got to cover the Jamestown Blue Jays when they hadn't won a basketball title forever, and then Mason Walters and Bowden Scumberg come in and just played lights out and led the Blue Jays to a title? You almost get that similar feel of this kind of game, doesn't it?
Jared Kallenbach, big brother for Adam, he was on that team back in 2019. I would agree. Jamestown's a good football team. Hey, last year they were 4-0 before COVID hit. Yeah. And that's in AAA last year. So they were a really good quality football team. At that point, COVID hit, and then, they ended up losing their next 4 games. And
they ended up forfeiting in the playoffs.
And I think, Todd, you touched on it too when you talk about a team that's happy about this realignment, because we look at this as this is a team that was moved down to AA football. And then when Troy Mattern took the job at Fargo Shanley and he elected to go back up into play AAA, well, Jamestown didn't have a choice. They got bumped right to AAA to even the sides out. So, I mean, this is a team, and you talked to Bill Nelson. I had Bill Nelson on the Overtime Show a couple of weeks ago, and, boy, you want to talk about a guy that's excited about his football team. It is him. I mean, he's got a lot of energy, and he just gave the utmost respect to these kids and what they've done and how they've battled all year long and really come to play football. So and Coach Schmeeker, he's a veteran. He knows Jamestown's going to come to play football tomorrow. St. Mary's, they're going to come to play football tomorrow. And what is that set up for? Well,
good game.
A really, really good football game.
I have to ask this, and no disrespect at all to Bill Nelson. Is Schmeeker an X factor in this ball game with what he brings to the table, being there so many times before? Do you put a target on him being the X factor in this game? Can you do that?
I mean, from a confidence and trust in, hey, we've been here before, we know the system, we know the routine, we're not going to get too high, we're not going to get too low. St. Mary's is going to have a little bit of an advantage there. I mean, Jamestown's going to be geeked up, and they're going to be hyped out to nobody's business. I mean, and they should be. They haven't been here in 27 years, and they haven't won a title since 1956, so they should be that hyped up. So I think, but from an X's and O's, these teams are going to do what they're going to do, and they've already played each other, so I don't see that there'll be much more of a, other than a confidence, maybe not even a confidence, maybe just a understanding of what the process is all about when you've been at the Dakota Bowl as many times as St. Mary's has been.
And I look at, too, when you talk about, if you're going to talk about an X factor in coaching, is I think the guy maybe that is Toby Schweitzer. I mean, I think we've seen in these games, was it the Devils late game when they made that stop down and I can't remember, Krebs, made that play in the gap. But again, I think Todd said, Jamestown's going to come to play, St. Mary's going to come to play, and hey, boys, let's just put the chin straps on and go at it.
Well, and Scott, you and I saw it firsthand when St. Mary's was getting rolled by Fargo Shanley.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, somebody, I don't know who's coaching the defense in the first half, but Toby Schweitzer started coaching them the second half, and they played completely different. So those in-game adjustments and when I see two teams that like to throw the ball and have as good a quarterbacks like this, whoever's D-line can impact the game. And have a chance of getting pressure on each other's quarterback, that's going to be the team that's probably going to win this one.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. That's going to be a fun one tomorrow. That game again at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. One matchup left to preview, and that's the AA in the 11-man West Fargo taking on West Fargo Cheyenne. We'll do that next, and then we'll make our picks to end out the preview show here for the Dakota Bowl 2021. Big thanks again to the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in Fargo, PSP Network's choice for hotel, the official hotel of the PSP Network. Back with more of the preview show in just a moment.
Carson, timeout.
Who calls a timeout in this game?
Me, I'm icing the kicker.
Really?
It'll give us more time to talk about First Western Bank and Trust,
Like our convenient online banking.
along with smart trust service options.
We're all about hometown service with bankers that know you and the community.
Okay, go ahead and kick.
I don't believe this.
First Western Bank and Trust. You can bank on us.
Fargo, North Dakota, Fargo Dome. Home to the Dakota Bowl here 2021. It's the preview show for the Dakota Bowl tomorrow. Coverage starting tomorrow morning, 9-10 a.m. for the opening kickoff for 4 games. We'll have coverage and digital radio broadcast for all 4 games tomorrow. Scott Woodmansey, Todd Domrey's on the call with Chuck Claremont on the call as well, with everybody taking a turn roaming the field tomorrow as well. That'll be a lot of fun at the Fargo Dome. We'll have great coverage for you starting tomorrow again at 9-10 a.m. for the opening kickoff. We'll be on the air 30 minutes prior to that on the PSP Network. Final one to break down, and we'll be getting into this one tomorrow night in about 24 hours from now. The Packers and the Mustangs, a pair of West Fargo teams that go toe-to-toe. Cheyenne up in the mix as one of the top teams all year. West Fargo kind of floated around that number 3 spot for a big part of the season. 2 teams that get together here for a championship in 2021. Gentlemen, West Fargo, it's always fun when crosstown rivals get together. This time it's a pair from West Fargo, North Dakota. What do we expect out of this one tomorrow night and 24 hours from now?
Well, I think one thing we want to bring out is we talked about, when you mentioned we were going to talk about surprises, and one of the things TD threw out is that if you want to talk about any team that's probably a surprise that's in the Dakota Bowl, it's probably West Fargo Cheyenne. I mean, as to where they were ranked, at the start of the year, but
not in their own mind, I don't think.
No, not in their own mind, certainly not. And I think this Cheyenne team, they're just on a mission right now. I think that they got the Century, they got Century off the back. They lost that monkey. They got them this year. They stopped the winning streak, and I just think that they're just built. The way they play right now, and I had a chance to watch them against Legacy, and boy, I tell you what, they just absolutely manhandled people up front, and they're so big up front on the offensive line and the defensive line, and I think West Fargo is going to have to bring everything they've got tomorrow to give the Mustangs their first loss.
The telltale sign to me was after that Century game, and Todd and I were out here in West Fargo to do that game, and when you beat a team like that it really has had your number, right, that you lost to in the last two state championships, and you beat a team that had won, 29 straight at that point in time, and they reacted like they did, Todd, like their coach did. It was like, hey, we didn't just win the Super Bowl. We won another game. We're not just okay with winning and beating Century in the regular season. Mm-hmm. From a man, I went down the field and interviewed the kids. I interviewed Theron Parson. He was just so even-keeled, not jacked up. There was no this crazy huge celebration afterwards. Coach Newton was just completely calm, cool. He said, hey, this is a win. We're happy about it. We're surely going to celebrate. We're going to, but we got a lot bigger things on our mind, and that part to me was big.
Yeah, it's kind of like they beat Williston, like a team that they should beat.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That was almost like the mentality of
confidence.
And it was against their team that's just been a nemesis. I mean, I guarantee you that Cheyenne is happy not seeing Century in the state final. I mean, they haven't scored a point against them the last 2 years, but yeah, they've kind of eradicated that. And hey, they've got one box left to check. I mean, they have dominated the EDC the last few years. They have won playoff games. They've gotten to the Dakota Bowl. The last thing to check off here for Jeremy Newton's club, the Cheyenne Mustangs, is to win the state title. I mean, that's the only thing that they have not accomplished. But I'm telling you right now that if there's two teams that don't like each other very much, it is these two teams. And it is well documented across multiple sports. We saw it play out in the semifinals of the hard court last year in the basketball tournament. And great game, and just as Cheyenne beat West Fargo beat Cheyenne, and then the Packers beat Minot in the state championship game. So, hey, yeah, it's I don't know if it's the best rivalry in the state, but it's a developing one that you can tell that those teams really don't like each other that much.
Yeah, and two for West Fargo, having watched them last week against Century, and I think the one guy that stood out is Josh Ballstead, and I think Josh is going to have another good football game around. Now, one guy, he can't put them all on their back, but certainly, 113 tackles on the year, and I think the next closest guy is at 50. So I just think that West Fargo and Jay Gibson, he's a veteran. He's been there. He's done that, and he knows that I don't know if he'd asked Jay at the start of the year, did he think his team was going to be here? He probably would have said maybe not, but they're here, and they go against their rival and bring out the kitchen sink.
To me, the plus for West Fargo is they've won 8 in a row now, okay? And so they've had some good games early in the season. They lost back-to-back games against Cheyenne, 28-7. They got blown out by Century, 41-13. And we were talking about beating a team twice in the year, and obviously there was a major change with this West Fargo football team and how much they've improved over the season. And it wasn't their defense that was kind of holding it. Their offense had been scoring a lot of points, really 40s and 30s for how many games in a row. But it's the defense that has stepped up in the playoffs, shut out Legacy, shut out Century. And that's, to me, what they're going to have to hang their hat on is, can they stop the running attack of the West Fargo Cheyenne Mustangs? Because that's what's been, dominant. 300 yards a game rushing. Nobody has stopped, and they've just been churning out the yards during the season. And it's going to have to take a big effort by the Packers defensive line and secondary and everybody to stop that running attack.
Yeah, because, Cheyenne is as big of a ground and pound team as you will find.
Yep.
And the kid that I like on Cheyenne's team, I want you guys to weigh in on this, is Josh Hendricks. I mean, okay, this guy's a bulldozer. Okay, number one, he should be getting sponsorships from Caterpillar, from John Deere, and from Komatsu.
RDO.
RDO. Yeah.
5'9", 245.
I mean, he is unbelievable, and he is a talent. So he's hard to bring down, and the undersized West Fargo Packers up front are going to have to do a whale of a job against him, because that dude is he's really, really good running back.
I can't read lips, but I think Chuck just gave me his first compliment, my first compliment. He pointed at me and said, "Is that like you?" Well, thank you for is that what you were saying? Thanks for the compliment.
Ouch.
I'll take
Absolutely. I was thinking bulldog.
You know,
that's what I was saying. An absolute beast.
You know, one thing, though, guys, is I think you really got to look at, too, is that West Fargo Cheyenne doesn't have a lot of kids that go both ways. West Fargo does.
I'm
And
with you.
And I certainly think that now you've been playing all year long in a cool environment. You've been practicing all week in a cool environment. Now you get into an environment where it's anywhere from 65 to 70 degrees or whatever that number is, and you know, how are these kids from West Fargo going to be able to hold up having to play both ways, going against a bigger, probably stronger Cheyenne team where kids aren't going both ways?
Yeah, that's one of the things that Coach Jay Gibson has talked about, basically saying that it's the depth and what's going to happen with them. And you mentioned it, Todd, looking at watching some of the games on tape. West Fargo, for a AA team, you'd expect them to be 20-20 in terms of sidelines, people lined up. And I watched some of those similar games. Like, where is all their guys?
They got 50 guys dressed.
Right.
I mean, those are numbers that you see down in 11B.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So they just don't have the numbers. But hey, I think the biggest key of the game is, can West Fargo have success on the early downs defensively? Because if you let Cheyenne get a couple, 2-3 yards, 4 yards, every single crack, they will kill you with paper cuts. I mean, it isn't the explosive plays.
Nope.
They'll get 4 or 5, 4 or 5, 4 or 5, and they'll just work you all the way down the field. So if West Fargo can stack them up on a couple early downs and get them into some third and longs and stuff like that, that'll be a huge thing for the game and for their defense.
Yeah, what I would say, too, is teams they're obviously focusing on the run. And last week for West Fargo Cheyenne, as they played Shanley. Shanley obviously stacked the box and said, Josh Hendricks, you're not going to beat us. They basically were keying on him the entire game. Guess what? Their quarterback, who had only ran for 300 yards or a little over that going in the game, he had 224 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
So to me, Grant Workentine, that's a kid, this is his third year of starting. That is a big part. He didn't look so great last year. I remember watching him against Century. It's kind of like, oh man, I wasn't too impressed with him. This year, it's like a different kid to me. It's like the light bulbs came on in terms of what he's doing, even throwing the football. I mean, he's about 50% passer, but it just seems like he's got a lot better handle of this offense. And obviously, he's a tough kid. I mean, he's 6 foot, 175, but he's a tough kid. He's a really good baseball player, and so gets back to me that leadership, and he stepped up last week in that semifinal, even running the football when that surely isn't something that he's been doing all year.
And Ken West Fargo, you talked about the defense, Todd, and what they've got to do on Cheyenne in the early downs but can West Fargo get a lead? Because Cheyenne hasn't been behind all year long as far as I know, but how will the Mustangs play from behind? Workentine doesn't throw it. He's 104 attempts this year. So if West Fargo can get in the end zone, maybe get in the end zone twice and get them down early, how do the Mustangs react to that one, having to play from behind in that title game?
It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. That one will end our broadcast tomorrow and the 2021 football season tomorrow night when West Fargo Cheyenne takes on West Fargo the Packers. That matchup slated for 6:40 tomorrow night. One more break. When we come back, we're going to make our picks here tonight. TD, are you ready for that? You got your picks in place?
Oh, yeah. This is going to be outstanding because it's going to be like on YouTube. So
No,
we'll be able to reference them later on.
We're going to be marked men.
We got to write them down. We got 60 seconds to write our picks down so we don't cheat off each other.
Men.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You got it.
You guys get your picks ready to rock and roll. We'll come back. We'll let you know who the boys are picking when we come back to the preview show for the Dakota Bowl, number 29, brought to you by the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in Fargo, the official hotel of the PSP Network. Final segment when we come back, then we'll get ready for the 9 a.m. kickoff tomorrow. Dakota Bowl preview show right here on the PSP Network.
National Bank is developing relationships. I love working with people. We've been here for over 25 years.
We've grown just like our communities we're in.
But we still have that personal connection with our customers.
And that's why we can find the best solutions for them.
It feels great seeing projects around the community and knowing we're a small part of making that happen.
We're helping people buy their first homes.
Plan for the future.
From startups to big business.
We're part of the community.
And we're proud of it.
Yours truly, PNC.
Thursday night and a calm before the storm. Dakota Bowl number 29 tomorrow starting at 9:10 a.m. with 9-man football, and a champion in North Dakota will be crowned tomorrow. 11B at 11:45 a.m. 11A at 2:30, and the Big Dogs, the 11AA at 6:40 tomorrow night. Nick Holberg, Chuck Claremont, Scott Woodmansey, and Todd Domrey's here for the preview show. Again, presented by our friends here in Fargo at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites. Number one place to stay when your family comes to the Fargo-Moorhead area. By the way, if you're still on your way to Fargo tonight, stay at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites. Mention the promo code Dakota and receive 15% off your two-night stay here during the Dakota Bowl. All right, guys, it's time for our picks here tonight as we end this preview show. And before we make the picks, what a fun year in a recap again of the broadcasts that we got to have on the air on the PSP Network. Just a big thank you from football community, sports community around Western North Dakota, the state. You guys do a fantastic job. I'm really looking forward to listening all day tomorrow. Woody, the calls that you have tomorrow, who are you on the call for play-by-play tomorrow?
I've got game 1 and 3 tomorrow. So I got the 9-man and the 11A tomorrow.
That means TD's on for the 11B and the 11AA tomorrow. And you'll be there for all of them, is that right?
Well, we'll all be there for all of them. I will be on color for the 9B, the 11A, and 11AA.
And then you'll be roaming the field for the other two, and then
I'll be on the field for 1. Scott and Todd will both be on the field for 2.
That's awesome. We're excited for tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely.
We're all set up, tested. You'd think I'd know who's doing what tomorrow. I know that I'll be sitting right next to you guys, listening to the ball games all day, running our Twitter, making sure that everybody's got enough water to keep the throats nice and ready for the next play that comes out of the huddle. All right, guys, it's time for our picks for tomorrow. Let's start with the 9-man, and this matchup between the Lobos and the Tornadoes from Cavalier, Lemoore Cavalier tomorrow morning. TD, the floor is yours. Who do you have if you have to take one of these two football teams tomorrow starting at 9:10 a.m.?
Well, I kind of influenced my pick earlier, or let you guys know what it's going to be, but yeah, I just got this feeling that LLM, it's the Lobos, Lemoore, Litchfield, Marion, and for no other reason than they have got less enrollment than Cavalier.
Bottom line,
I always go for the underdog.
You don't got a score?
No, we don't have to pick score.
We've always picked score.
I think you should
just
pick
FYI, because there's a tiebreaker. Comes to point differential, TD.
Oh,
okay.
Well, whoa, okay.
Come back to that. You can think of that one.
No, I got it. Let's go.
Woody needs another commercial break to get his scores
yeah.
Well, neither one of them kicks. So, okay, let's go 30, 39. Now let's go 38, 34.
Ooh.
38, 34.
Lemoore.
Yes.
Woody, where do you fall in line? What do you have tomorrow for 9-man football?
Well, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, and as this young lady came over here and said, it's not a thunderstorm, it's not a winter storm, but it's a tornado coming through the Fargo Dome. Cavalier 40, LLM 36.
And I got to go with the Tornadoes. I got to go with my birthplace of Cavalier, 36-34.
36-34. Everybody's got this one dubbed as being a great ball game tomorrow. TD's got the Lobos. Woody and Chuck both have Cavalier in 9-man football tomorrow.
And what are you doing?
Well, I kind of like Cavalier. I haven't seen the Lobos. I'm not going to lie to you.
I love lone wolfing it.
You're going to lone wolf it? I think
Okay.
I'm going to let you lone wolf it. And I think I'm
way to talk him into that one.
Yeah.
Hey, lone wolf, Lobo.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Here we go.
Holberg's going
Let's
Cavalier.
go Lobos! Right
Yeah.
there, man.
This guy's over here fired up again. Holberg's going Cavalier as well.
You would think if a guy like this walks over here with a beer in his hand, he'd bring 4 more, wouldn't you? but I guess apparently that doesn't work that way. But nonetheless,
where are you going? Speaking of beverages,
I'm going 42-36 Cavalier tomorrow.
All right, there you go.
Uh-oh.
All right.
You ain't getting a beer
Hey,
now.
I'm on the Lobos.
Let's go to 11B football tomorrow. You've got Hillsborough Central Valley taking on Kindred. TD, the floor is yours to start again.
Oh, man, I don't get to go first 2 times in a row. I'm
I'll go.
rotating it.
Okay, Woody, go ahead.
Woody
All right. Well, I think the March Madness rolls over, and I think the Kindred Vikings win this one in a close one, 27-21.
So I see the first flag football championship going up for the Vikings, 27-26. I had written down.
TD?
Oh, I got Hillsborough Central Valley.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course.
And it's going to be 28-18.
28-18. All right, Woody has got Kindred 27-21, Chuck 27-26 for Kindred. TD's got Hillsborough Central Valley by 10 at 28-18. This is kind of like Price is Right in the morning, trying to get onto the stage. I'm going to go higher. I think they're going to put more points on the board tomorrow. And I could be wrong. I feel like that shootout comment from earlier, we might be in store for it. I'm going to say 35-34 Hillsborough Central Valley tomorrow.
Ooh, he's got the aerial show going on, huh?
I'm taking it. I think we're going to be in for a thriller in all these ball games. At least I hope that's what we get tomorrow.
So 11A, I'll go next year. I got this. You can't go against the Saints. In order to beat the man, you got to be the man. I don't see it. In order to be the man, you got to beat the man. I don't see Jamestown being the man this time. I got St. Mary's 21-20.
St. Mary's all the way. I mean, when we asked for sponsors last week in the PSP Network, who stepped up big? The St. Mary's Saints.
Thank you so much to those people.
Say nothing else right there. I mean, that's karma, and I guarantee you that it results in a victory. So I think this one's going to be lower scoring than the other ones. So I'm going to say 17-16.
So you're saying a Nick Schumacher field goal.
Yes.
Was it last year 15 seconds or 5 seconds left?
Yeah, he beat Mandan earlier this year.
And last year he kicked a field goal with 15 seconds to beat Beulah. So there you go. I like it. That's a good call.
17-16.
All right.
Well, I'm going to make this one. So far I'm going to make it 3 for 3. I'm staying with. I'm going with Dan Schmeeker and the St. Mary's Saints. You get them once, and it's tough to get a Dan Schmeeker team twice in the same season. I'm taking St. Mary's 24-20.
24-20 for Woody.
He's got a field goal by Schumacher too.
Good friend of the PSP Network is Matt Stockert, one of the coaches for this Jamestown team. He's going to want to slap me around when he sees me tomorrow because I got St. Mary's as well. I think this is going to be a defensive teeter-totter match tomorrow with two good defensive teams. After everything you guys have said and seeing St. Mary's play, they obviously have some offense as well, but I'm saying 14-13 on a missed extra point. Missed two-point conversion earlier in this one is going to put that 13 on the board. I've got St. Mary's winning by 1 point tomorrow at 2:30 in the afternoon.
You're not going with a 6-2 West Fargo like over Fargo South? That was one of the state championships for Jay Gibson.
Unbelievable. All right, let's move on to the final one, the 11 AA tomorrow night. Cheyenne and West Fargo. Woody, you've got the floor. Let's start with you.
Well, I think that the Mustangs hang their first state championship football banner at West Fargo Cheyenne. I think they run away with this one, and they win it 35-14.
That's kind of where my thought was at. All right, Woody's got 35-14 Cheyenne. Who's next, TD?
I just, as much as I want to pick West Fargo and we like Jay Gibson a ton, I don't see this one happening. So I think it's Cheyenne all the way. I'm going to say 21-0.
Oh, they pitch a shutout. Okay.
And I like Cheyenne. To me, third time's a charm. I think that's too much right there. I got him 21-17 over the Packers.
Ooh, he's got a tight one.
Cheyenne's going to get the monkey off their back. They've been shut out twice in the last 2 state championships, so this time they're going to return the favor, and they're going to shut out their crosstown rival.
Well, that's a bold prediction. Carson Hagerly, I think, gets into the end zone tomorrow twice.
Oh.
For 14 points.
Okay.
Oh.
But I think that Cheyenne's a runaway train like ACDC winning 42-14.
Jeez.
Oh, we got a little ACDC in there, too.
ACDC
All right,
right
there we
there,
go.
huh?
Well,
I
fellas.
like that.
Great show, guys.
Everybody's shutting her down, ready for tomorrow morning. Early to bed, early to rise tomorrow with the pregame show starting tomorrow at 8:45. The call
I'll agree with one of those.
on the PSP network tomorrow. Join us for the digital radio broadcast of all the games. Gentlemen, football season's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. This will be a great way to cap off a great year of high school football in North Dakota.
And I think Nick, too, I think it'd be, safe to say for these guys, thank you for, obviously taking the chance with us. And certainly, I guess the most important piece of this whole puzzle right now, hey, man, we got a field mic tomorrow. Huh? We got a field mic.
We don't have to worry about
I was not throwing you under the bus, but we got a field mic. Here we go.
Let's hear
It's
a cheerleading mom. Finish it out. Let's go.
The thunderstorm, the tornado's back, so.
The tornado is back. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Looking
job,
forward
man.
to it. A lot of fun here on the PSP
awesome.
Network.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Todd Dobries, we appreciate you. Scott Woodmansey, we appreciate you. Chuck Claremont, as always, we appreciate you as well. Big thanks again to our friends at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here at Fargo. Again, the number one spot. If you're coming to Fargo Moorhead, stay at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites. Big thank you to them, the official hotel of the PSP Network, well in Bismarck. Action starts tomorrow at the Fargo Dome. Again, at 9:10 in the morning for the opening kickoff. We'll be there 30 minutes prior. Join us 8:40, 8:45 tomorrow for the pregame show tomorrow for game number 1 of 4 that we'll have coverage of on the PSP Network. Again, Lemoore takes on Cavalier. Hillsborough takes on Kindred. St. Mary's and Jamestown. Cheyenne and West Fargo tomorrow from the Fargo Dome. For Chuck Claremont, Scott Woodmansey, and Todd Dobries, I'm Nick Holberg signing off from the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites here in Fargo until tomorrow morning at 8:40 a.m. for our countdown to kickoff. Have a good night, and God bless.
Whether you're looking for a full-service financial plan or planning for farm or business succession, Planning Team Financial Advisors is here to help you work toward achieving your financial goals. With locations in Bismarck, Garrison, and Center, our full-service team of professionals are dedicated to helping you work towards achieving your financial goals. Visit us online, planningteam.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice offered through GWM Advisors, LLC, doing business as Goss Advisors, a registered investment advisor. GWM Advisors, LLC, and Planning Team Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.